Welcome to the Irrigation Insights Podcast, where we talk about the business of irrigation. I'm your host, Jacob.
And I'm your co-host, Ben. Well, Jacob, we've been working together for a long time. What would you say really pushed us forward into this industry?
Into the irrigation industry?
I mean, maybe not so much into the irrigation industry, but maybe just into... Because once we got, the learning skills out of the way, getting the job down, it became not how do we make the products work the best, how do we make the sales, and how do we make the guys work the best for the business. It became let's get the business going instead of let's just make it all about irrigation.
Well, we had to completely change the way we were operating. We were operating still like a single guy in a truck, but with multiple employees. And we had to restructure everything.
So you would say where there was a time where the words average ticket came into the game.
Oh, yeah. All these KPIs came into play. Tracking everything. And I would say, yeah, if you're not tracking your average ticket, your booking rate, conversion rate, I mean, those are the big ones.
So what would you say is more important? Would we want to discuss more about daily revenue, or should we want to focus more on, higher average tickets? What are we after here?
Average ticket. I mean, daily revenue is a reflection of average ticket. If you're only running 2 jobs, your daily revenue will be lower, as the season slows down. Yeah, average ticket, I would say, definitely more important. Booking rate, definitely.
So you would be more focused on trying to get the guys to run higher average tickets versus, hey, we gotta run as many jobs as it takes to get to a $3,000 a day revenue goal. We've got to do that. Are we going to focus more on sending the guys to do more work, or are we going to focus more on getting the guys to do a lot more with less?
More with less, for sure. We still see companies running 7, 8, 10 jobs a day with a $150 average ticket. It's not sustainable or scalable. You can't grow that way. You're burning through calls.
Yeah, you're just spinning. It feels like you're going backwards. You get to so much forward motion, then you just kind of flutter right there. And sometimes you go backwards, and then sometimes you get back where you were, and it just never seems like you make any progress when you're at that level.
No. You have to. That's what I wrote down here. You have to build your business to sell. Even if you don't plan on selling, you have to, in my opinion, build to sell. So I wrote down here, what are your goals for the business? Do you want to work alone forever, or do you want to scale and hire people?
Now, what are you saying there by scale? Let's talk about that scaling a little bit.
Well, I think you just have to decide what your goals are. Do you want a $1 million company a year, $10 million, $20 million, $100 million?
Yeah, that's what we're asking about, the scale you're talking about. Are we scaling up to, we maybe I'm just one guy and I want to have a couple guys working with me, or maybe I want to work by myself for a little bit and then have 5 guys working for me and then me not doing anything, or do I want to really push it to the point where I want to have, a Milestone or Baker Brothers size industry where it's a couple hundred people out in the field, a couple hundred people in the office, a couple people answering the phones. What kind of scale would you say we're looking for here? Because there's different everyone has different goals when they say scale. Because some people just want to be able to work alone and not have to have a boss again, be their own business leader. Then you've got a couple businesses that they just want to have a couple guys with them, and that's as far as they want to scale. Or are we going all the way where we're just going straight for the stars?
I know we're going for the stars, personally, but I think everybody has different goals.
Well, what would you say would be the most important thing for a new business owner? What should be their first goal in the scale? Since you're weighing this very heavy on scaling, what would you say is the most important first goal? Like when you start day one, you walk out into the field as a business owner, you walk into the field, your first day, what's your goal? What's your first goal need to be?
I got that. I got that right here on the back of my list. If you want to scale, if you decide you don't want to work by yourself forever and you do want to grow, I think the first step is to hire a CSR, customer service representative, somebody to answer the phones. You have, even if you're by yourself right now, taking all the calls, doing all the work, you're running the truck, you're doing everything. If you don't want to do that forever, I think the first step is hiring somebody to answer the phones.
So that's the first goal, is getting the call load off of you.
Yeah, you
Getting
can't,
somebody that's, nice, somebody that people can easily talk to, that can work with you instead of you having to do everything. It's not the first goal in the scale is not to have somebody work with you. It's somebody to take the phone calls.
I think so. And I'll tell you why. You're missing too many calls trying to do it yourself. If you're working, you can't answer calls. And your booking rate is too low. You can grow faster with a higher booking rate. I know when you and Michael, when we just started out, it was you and one other guy in the field, and I was taking calls, and I thought I was doing a good job. My booking rate
was 31%.
Yeah, maybe 32%. And I was keeping y'all busy on that 32%.
Yeah, how many leads were we missing out in the beginning there because of that?
Oh, there's no telling. I mean, I was paying, when you're you're spending money on marketing and you're only getting 32% booked. So much money wasted.
Where do those other leads go? They go to different companies.
Yeah, they go to your competitors. Now, our booking rate is at 78% and it's still getting higher, which means, if you can just get somebody to answer the phones, train them on how to properly answer the phones, have a process, have an actual call flow. This is how we answer the phone. We do it the same way every time. We know how to overcome objections. If they say, well, what do you charge to come out? We know how to answer that. Everything, it's all figured out. There's a script to answer the phone calls. You get that booking rate to 80%. You now have twice as much work, 3 times as much work. And without spending any more in marketing, you can go from 2 technicians to 4 to 6.
You can double in size without doubling the cost.
Yeah.
So now, when we're talking about CSR agents, how do you know where to find a good CSR agent? Like, what are you looking for in that person's traits when you first meet them? Because obviously you're not talking about meeting someone that's got field experience or work experience. You're just looking for somebody that's somebody that's easy to talk to. What are the ways that you find someone like that?
I would say, well, I would look for somebody bubbly, outgoing, not afraid to talk to somebody that's angry. You're going to get some angry calls coming in the call center that can't ruin their whole day. My sister answered the calls, and she's not really that bubbly and outgoing, but she kills it. So it's hard to say. I would look for somebody,
because she's got the 78% booking rate, correct?
Yeah.
And I get, being in the field, I hear the customers, the lady in the office, I forgot her name. She's wonderful. She's easy to talk to, easy to work with. If I have an issue with the appointment, she's easy to talk to. Though I feel like those are the things that you want to be looking for. Is maybe not so much the bubbly personality, but just making people feel comfortable on the phone. Because that's where you lose a lot of leads, is when there's nothing worse than, you've got a question, you call a business, and you get, just somebody that's just there just to answer the phone, that all they want to do is answer your question and get off the phone. That is the worst thing in the world to have, when you call a business and you've got a question, you're trying to become a customer, and you get on the phone with someone and you just don't feel comfortable when you're on the phone with them. To me, that's got to be something important that you want to be looking for when you get started.
Oh, yeah. The CSR is laying the foundation for you when you get out there. She's setting up everything. If she does a good job, by the time you get there, your customer already likes you. They already like your company.
You've already got a standard set.
Yeah. Everything everything's already in place. If they don't do a good job, you're walking into a losing situation right away.
Yeah, you're walking in it. When a customer calls you, when it's just you and you don't have anybody else answer the phone, the customer calls you. You're in the middle of doing something. The customer says, "Hey, can you come look at my irrigation system?" Yeah, I can be there tomorrow 9:00. Hang up. Bye. Now the customer's like, okay, what am I walking into? Who's this going to be? Is this person going to be easy to talk to? You don't build any foundation. When you call our main office or any good company, good home service company, you're going to get somebody that's easy to talk to, to answer all your questions. We'll spend the time with you on the phone to build the relation to book that call. So that way you keep the booking rate up, because sometimes you're going to get people that you're going to try to be too direct with, and they're going to say, okay, well, let me call a couple other companies and see, what their prices are or what their openings are. And all that is a ploy for them to not be able to say, okay, I don't like you, and then hang up. Because nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to very few people are going to voice their true intentions over the phone. They're always going to find an easy way out. So what you have to do, you have to build that relation right there. That's before, like you said, before the technician even walks up to the door, you've already built this, idea of, you've already kind of given them an idea of what they're getting.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're building value on the phone. Our call flow, our script is probably 3 pages. And so many people get caught up in we got to get off the phone in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Some of our phone calls are 12 minutes long. I mean, it's not a time thing.
That extra, so people want to get off the phone in 2 minutes, but we have a phone call that's 12 minutes. So you're going to tell me another business owner is going to tell me that extra 10 minutes they could have spent on the phone was worth that lead. Because what are we talking on average? If that person called you, right, they had to have called you off something, which most of the time it's going to be Google. How much did that phone call just cost you for you to want to end it in 2 minutes and then not get that lead? What did that just cost you?
Oh yeah, if you don't book it, I mean,
on average, what are we talking?
For a sprinkler lead, $40, $60 is what Google's charging per phone call.
So, let's just do some quick math here. We'll get the calculator out. That's $6 a minute you just wasted on that phone call.
Yeah.
If that was a 12-minute call and you only wanted to be on it 2, and then we spent another 10 minutes on it and got the lead, we now have a chance to keep that $60 versus just running the customer off, because they're not going to call you back when they tell you, well, let me call around. They're not calling you back. They're going to end up calling another company that's going to spend that time with them, make them feel comfortable, book the lead. They're not calling you back.
And if you're in the field, you're not spending 12 minutes on the phone with a customer.
No, you can't. You can't afford to spend 12 minutes on the phone with a customer, because it's going to get to a point where you're going to be doing that every 10 minutes and you're never going to get anything done. You're just going to be spinning your wheels.
Yeah, you can't. I've seen some of these guys in the field, they answer the phone, hello. They just say hello.
Yeah, that makes people feel like they called the wrong number. Like, yeah, I'm looking for this, irrigation company. Oh, yeah, that's me,
Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, where do you live? Oh, I live over here. Oh, yeah, okay, we can come out Tuesday. Like, nobody wants to do business with you. No. And if they do book it, their
expectations are low.
Yeah, so low.
Which, and for some of the customers we get, they already have low expectations. But there's a lot of people that, when you and a lot of businesses don't understand this. Even just one guy businesses that have built a little bit on Google. They spent a little money on their website. They've spent money on a logo. What business owners seem to forget is when a customer sees that on Google, to them they're looking at professionals. When they look on Google and they look at all the different listings for sprinkler repair, they're looking at professionals. So when they call you, one of your biggest goals on that phone call is to be professional. You want them to feel like they called a professional. They don't want to feel like they just called their neighbor from 3 doors down to come over and take a look at it and take a guess.
Mm-mm.
You want to build a professional relationship. So that way when the technician shows up, They're expecting a professional, not just somebody that they found, a couple streets over, mowing grass or something like that. They want to feel like they called a professional.
Yeah, most definitely. And I was worried when I first when we got our first CSR. I was worried. Can we afford it? Can we not? Is it the right time? Should we wait? And I would say to anybody out there, if you're serious about growing, the time is now. The time is absolutely now. Hire them, get a process to answer the calls, and get it started right away. Because if your average ticket is, let's say it's $200, and your CSR books one more job a day than you, I mean,
that's worth it right there.
That's $1,000 a week extra in revenue.
Yeah.
Off of one job. If she books 2 jobs a day, now you're $2,000 a week extra in revenue, just from extra jobs that you're not picking up.
Yeah, and I would favor to guess that any CSR agent you put in that position that you spend a little time picking, if you find the person that fits that bill, that makes people feel comfortable, that will spend the time with them on the phone, make you sound professional, present your business the way you want your business presented, I would favor to guess more often than not that CSR agent is going to double the booking rate every single time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And if you ask business owners, oh, what's your booking rate? Everybody says, 80, 90%. But it's not. If you actually do the math, it's 30 to 40%.
Yeah, because they're just talking about calls that they booked immediately. They don't factor in, cancellations, weather delays, or, and that's another thing too that a lot of these companies are struggling with, and a lot of these one guy timers are struggling with. When you book somebody out a week or more, you're opening yourself up for those cancellations because the customer's going to wait a couple days, they're going to get impatient, and they're going to call somebody else, and they're going to keep calling until they find a company that says, hey, I can get out there tomorrow. And whether they feel like, that's the thing, when they're looking for that faster service, they are immediately forgetting about the value for $1. So eventually what's going to happen is they're going to keep calling. They're going to find a company that says, hey, I can be out there tomorrow. They're going to call you back and say, hey, I found another company that can get here sooner. I want to cancel my appointment. That's a loss. That's a lead lost, not because of your booking rate, not because of your business presentation, but because of your process, which is the next thing we need to get into. Your process failed you because they're looking for a sooner appointment. So now that we're into that subject,
well, yeah, that might have to be a whole other episode.
It could be, but just on a quick glance, how do you just on a quick glance, how do you step that process in? How far do you? This is where it's going to touch back. How far do you book jobs out to a point where instead of looking for maybe a CSR agent or another CSR agent, when do you start thinking, okay, I need to find somebody else to work for me?
Oh, yeah. I see guys talking about, we're booked out 3 weeks, we're booked out a month, we're booked out 6 weeks. You should never be booked out that long.
No. And that's why we're getting into this right now, because you said the first goal for any business is the first thing should be a CSR agent. So, if you've got, let's say you found some, and there's going to be very few guys that can do it, but it's probably going to happen because you're going to have some guys that, can ensure trust over the phone in a short period of time and keep a decent booking rate and still be able to get the work done. They're probably, living alone or don't have a lot of overhead, and they're working really hard. They've got the time to spend all day long making sure all that stuff gets done. But they're booked out, a week and a half. At what point do you still, if you're booked out for a week and a half and your booking process is still working for you, if that person feels like, okay, well, I think maybe I need to hire somebody to work with me first. Mm-hmm. Is there a time where is it always, let's get a CSR agent first, or is there ever a situation where maybe I should get someone else to work for me first and then get a CSR agent?
I would say do both. I would say do both, personally. If you're booked out a week and a half and you're taking all the calls, I would say get a CSR and a helper.
So you would say that there's situations where they could do both at the same time, depending on how well their process is working for them at that point in time. Yeah,
you need a CSR. If you're going to scale, you have to have processes. Everything has to be documented and processed. this episode I wanted to do like built to sell. And if you want, and the whole purpose of building something to sell, even if you never plan to sell it, I don't plan to sell, but you want to be able to sell. What if you get hurt? What if you can't work? Building to sell is the idea of.
So when you say built to sell, you're not necessarily meaning sell, like sales as in your guys need to sell the products or sell the business. You're saying built to sell as in you need to build value to the business that you could sell it if you need to.
Yeah, you could sell the business if you need to.
So the whole goal in this is to make the business more valuable.
Right.
And to make it more valuable, you have to make it more efficient. You have to make it work better.
Yeah, it can't involve you really as the business owner. Even if you don't ever plan on selling it, maybe you want to give it to your kids. Maybe your kids don't want it. Maybe you will sell it. Maybe you just want investors. Maybe you want a line of credit or a loan. If you're not profitable, if you are working by yourself, pulling in $300,000 a year in revenue and hardly any profit, it's going to be tough to get a loan. It's going to be tough to get lines of credit. And if you break your leg, you're toast. So this is just.
Well, and even it doesn't always have to be health problems too. Let's say, it's just maybe you don't have a CSR. Maybe it's you taking the CSR role and you've got two guys working for you, and you're still kind of getting your processes down. If you don't have any value in the business, to get things like a line of credit, what happens when one of the guys' vehicles goes down?
Yeah.
That's in a two person, well, technically a 3-person, but there's only 2 people that are bringing revenue in. In a 2-person revenue sense, one guy goes down, there's half your income. Mm-hmm. When you have 10 guys and one guy goes down, that's not that bad.
It's 10%. Yeah, 10%.
10%. Now it's a difference in 10% or 50%. That's detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's detrimental to any business. Any business that goes to a 50% profit loss is detrimental. No matter the scale, it's detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to work alone, I think a lot of our advice is going to help you. We want to scale up, and you don't have to say, "Oh, I want a $50 million a year company." $5 million, $10 million, whatever your goal is. But it needs to operate without you. Is the whole point. So I think getting a CSR, and if you are booked out by yourself, get a CSR, get a helper, and start documenting your processes. The CSR needs to know how to answer the phone. Her job is to book calls, not to know anything about sprinklers.
Yeah, not to give prices, not to sell work over the phone. Their only job is to sell the service, mm-hmm. which the service is you. Sell the company to the customer.
Yeah.
And then your CSR sells the company to the customer, and then your technician sells the products to the customer. That's how that works.
CSR gets you there. Get as many appointments as possible. And if you got that, then you need to start working on your other processes.
So what would you say? Actually, go ahead.
Well, I think you need a CSR. You need a CRM. I still see a lot of people operating with no CRM. And
now what is a CRM?
Oh, I forget exactly what it's like. A customer relationship management, I think is what it stands for. System like Jobber or House Call.
Oh, okay.
Pro,
you're talking about logistics and software programming. Something that now we're getting into processes now instead of processes for the CSR. We're now going into the logistics side of things. What are you using to book appointments? Are you using a notepad? Are you using a spreadsheet? Are you using an actual tailored software? Or are you just taking phone calls and saying, I'll be there, and then just going?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do that. I think you need a software. Service Titan is what we use. It's very expensive, but I think it's the best. It's what a lot of big companies use. I know Tommy Mello, A1 Garage Doors, they use it. They're doing $250 million a year. So it holds up as big as you want to get.
So now when would you say, okay, so Service Titan is an expensive logistics software is what I'm going to call it. So when do you how do you tell a new business owner, hey, you need to do this? Because obviously you can't. You can't tell a new business owner that they need to spend all that money on software.
Yeah, Service Titan. You can't even get on Service Titan until you get to a certain size.
Yeah. So where do you start? Do you tell guys to start off a notepad or a spreadsheet, or do you tell them to go into something more simpler like a Jobber?
Yes. House Call Pro. I was on Jobber. I don't know about House Call Pro, but any of them, something to hold a database of customers, do your scheduling, send quotes through, all that stuff. I don't even know what Jobber and House Call Pro. I mean, Service Titan has a price book. It's got a digital price book. It links up to QuickBooks.
Well, Jobber had a price book too.
Yeah, it's just.
But there's just the problem with Jobber. So Jobber is a really good software starting out. You can put all of your basic prices in. You can't have any pictures of the products, but you can put all your price book in there. You can make appointments. You can send appointment notifications. You can even tell the customer that you're on your way and give them a time frame of when you're going to be there, so that way they're ready for you. That's another big thing too in the processes, is making sure the customer knows, inside your time window, which time windows we want to discuss another day, but letting the customer know that you're on the way. Because we get so many people that say, well, I didn't know y'all were coming. Well, yes, you did, because you get automated text from our system.
Yeah,
even Service Titan. Service Titan will actually allow the customer to track you live as you're on your route, so they know exactly when you're going to be there. And I've had customers pull up right behind me, so I know that it works. So, with Jobber, you're not going to get those features, but you'll be able to schedule appointments. You'll be able to, if you've got some guys, you can actually write in your scheduled software that this guy's going to be off on this day, so you can keep track of it. You can put holidays in there. You can forward schedule. You'll still get a database, so you can do outbounds. You can get in touch with your customers. The only problem that we found with Jobber is the flexibility. When we start getting into flexibility of what we can do with prices in the field is where it becomes a problem, because you can't offer. You have to just say, this is what it costs. Do you want to do it? You get no flexibility with Jobber. All you can do is, if you feel like the price needs to be changed, you can change the price there, but you can't really, you can't do discounts with Jobber, right? So you have to do all of that there. It just doesn't give you any flexibility. It's like going to a car mechanic shop. They don't tell you, well, you've got these options. No, they slap an invoice in front of you and say, this is what it costs, yes or no. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't tend to work very good in a home service setting.
No.
Because all you're doing is trapping the customer, and they freeze up on you because they feel like you just trapped them. And now they have to say yes or no.
Yeah.
And I would, when you're doing it that way, 50 to 60% of the time they're going to say no, because even though they called you, they needed a professional, they needed the work done. Now you've given them a price, and they're like, oh, I didn't expect to pay that much. When really all it was is you trapped them. You didn't give them any kind of option.
Yeah, you need to be able to give options. One option, it's not an option, it's ultimatum. And that's what Service Titan allows you to do. You can give 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many options you want. Present it on the iPad, very nice, neat. Let them pick which option they want to go with. But yeah, I think getting a CSR, getting a CRM, you need a phone system, even if it's just a second phone. That's how we started for the CSR, your one CSR to answer all the phones. They take over. They're doing all the scheduling. They're handling that whole thing.
So while we're on the phone system topic, at what point do you tell a business, because everybody has calling hours, right? Even if you've got just a second phone that's tailored just for your business, at what point does that become, because a lot of people don't work weekends, a lot of times, you'll be out on vacation or, out on the lake or doing whatever it is you do on the weekends or whenever other time you're off. You just let the phone ring, it goes to voicemail, right? At what point do you tell a business owner you need to have some kind of after call hours call center? When does that come into play?
Well, we've always used the answering service. I think they get a little pricey, but if you really want to keep your booking rate up, I think the answering service is the way to go. There's many out there that they have AI answering services now, which I've looked into. Some people are happy with them. I've listened to some examples. They're getting okay. They're not as great, I think. I don't know. The AI answering services are a little weird, but they're getting there. They're getting pretty good. We use Jill's office. There's some other ones. But the way answering service works is if your CSR, if it's after hours or even during the middle of the day, if your CSR can't answer the phone, it automatically connects to the answering service. And they just act as message takers. They're going to collect name, address, phone number, email. What do they need? What's the problem? They collect it. Very short phone call. But at least the customer feels like they talked to somebody. They didn't get the voicemail. They didn't get no answer. They spoke to somebody. These answering services act as an extension of your company, so they'll answer it as, oh, thank you for calling Lawn Sense. And they'll collect the information. They send it right to you. Then when we get off the phone, we call them right back, and we book that call. And that works out really well. They are a little pricey, but like I said, it's worth it if you can keep your booking rate up. And you got to know your average ticket too. You got to know if you can afford to do that. The higher your average ticket is, the more you can afford to do that stuff.
So you would say, so the first three things you would tell a new business owner is you need a CSR, you need a good CRM, and you need to try get some kind of decent phone system down. So that way, so you're basically what you're telling people is the very first thing they need to be concerned with before they start talking about, changing prices or getting more people out on the road. You need to pretty much have a smooth customer side of the system. The customer needs to have a smooth transition from the time they hit the call on Google all the way up until the point where the technician knocks on the door.
Yeah.
That process is the first thing you should worry about.
Yeah, I think so. It's because it's low-hanging fruit. I mean, if you're already getting, whether you're spending any money on marketing or not, you're already getting calls. So if you hire a CSR, they can immediately start getting you more jobs just by increasing your booking rate. So you get a CSR, get a CRM, make sure CSR has a way to answer the phone, book the jobs, let them know that you're coming. Everything's done digitally. We're not doing it on pen and paper. No paper invoices. Once you have that, you're going to start making more money. The CSR should pay for themselves. If they're not booking more than you, you got to get them trained or get somebody different. Let them go. Once you get all that, then you got to start working on your sales process. You're working on the CSR's call flow. Now you got to work on your sales process. How do you answer the door every time? Do it the same way every time. How are you answering the door? How are you doing your inspection? How are you offering prices? What do they say whenever they tell you, well, just send me that estimate in an email? What do you say to that? How are you closing the deals? What's your conversion rate? And with a good CRM, like ServiceTitan, you can track it. We know, well, this technician closes 50% of his jobs. This one does 75. This one's at 85. So if we have one guy at 50% conversion rate, we can look and say, well, how come you're not closing that many jobs? What's going on here? And we want to get his conversion rate up. We start tracking these KPIs. Get that sales process down. And you can do this while you're by yourself. Once your process is knocked down or locked down, then you can bring on a guy.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, it's just copy and paste. Once it's locked down, you're bringing on a guy, showing them how to do it, letting them run with it.
And there's a lot of things that at this point in time we do on the back end that also helps the processes too. We've got text notifications that were coming. We can, and these are another episode topics. We got Google reviews. We have the presentation of the vehicles. How we park. Just all of those little bitty back end things. Even just so much as even something as simple as letting the customer know in the booking notification that hi, your technician is going to be, so-and-so. He's been doing this for this many years. He's one of our best guys. We look forward to seeing you. Just that little bit, just something simple as a personal a more personal, greeting with the appointment notification goes. All those little things help back you up once you get to the door. That automatically sets the tone. The customer knows exactly who they're going to be speaking to. They've already got a little bit of history about you. They're already excited to meet you, essentially, is what you're after.
Yeah. Yeah, we can send pictures of who's coming. They know exactly who's coming, what you look like.
And that stuff you can even do with Jobber. Even Jobber will let the customer see a picture of the technician that's coming, and you can customize the appointment notification that they get. That's even stuff you can do with simple software. And then a lot of simple things like that help people.
Yeah.
And help you.
It all just builds on each other.
Because we've got technicians right now that run around. There's some of our guys do the training on other guys, and it's almost hard to set a new guy into that environment, because as soon as the customer walks through the door, they're looking for the name that they were told on the booking notification. And then the training guy is not going to be on the booking notification. It's going to be the lead technician that's on site. So even in just seeing things like that is what really reminds you that all the little things you do build onto each other. They back you up on the end. And then when something is taken out of the equation, it throws everything off.
Yeah. Yeah. These are all little pieces to a much larger puzzle. And that's what.
But in the beginning, it's all about, getting the big pieces down.
Yeah. People might be wondering, well, why are we talking about all this? Why do we want to share our secrets? Why do we want to? What's the point?
Yeah. What purpose do we have of sharing our insights and our successes with other businesses around the area, or really, since we're on a podcast, around, nationwide, anybody that wants to listen to us, why would we want to offer these insights?
We want to help the industry. We've learned a lot in the past couple of years. We've grown a lot. Do what?
The hard way.
Yeah, the hard way. Yeah, no doubt. We want to help the industry. I mean, we still see so many people doing things the old school way. I think the irrigation industry is where the plumbing industry was 25 years ago. It's where the irrigation industry is where the garage door industry was 10 years ago. If you look at Tommy Mello, he brought the garage door industry out of whatever hole it was in. And now A1 Garage Doors is doing $250 million. Private equities all in the garage door space. Garage door companies are doing great everywhere. That's what we want to see for the irrigation industry. These plumbing companies, HVAC, electrical, garage doors now, roofers. Every major city, there's a company in one of those industries, probably multiple companies, all doing $100 million. I mean, here in Dallas, Milestone's doing well over $100 million. They have a plan to get to $1 billion here in just Dallas. I've heard Gus Santos talk about this plan to get to $1 billion just in one city.
And that's unheard of for a home service industry in one condensed area.
Yeah, in one city. Parker and Sons in Phoenix, they are pushing $300 million in one city. And when you look at the irrigation industry, you just don't see that. You don't see any of these big giants.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that too.
Yeah, people are still doing stuff the old way, and we don't have to compete with each other. I mean,
yeah, if everyone got on the same page, even if your prices are off by 10 to 20% from your competitors, as long as everyone is in a specific range, it's going to help everyone. And we can even get so much into the sense of we hear companies around here, they're charging $100 for a sprinkler head. Personally, we're somewhere around 70 or 80. You hear guys that are doing 40, but what's killing all the companies is the guys that are out there doing it for 15 or $20, or they're saying, "Hey, you go get one, I'll put it in for $5." All you're doing, you're almost 100% guaranteeing that you're going to get that $20 or that $15 or whatever you just charged them, but you're also shooting yourself in the foot. You're shooting everyone else in the foot, because now you're getting that person used to that price. So even when somebody comes in and says that they're going to charge them 30, now they're upset but you're killing yourself because you're shortchanging yourself. You're putting your hard work and your time and your effort out there into the world, and you're not going to get the return that you deserve. If you're going out there and you're doing a good job and you're putting off a very good vibe to the customer and they like you, you need to be, without saying in a bad way, capitalizing on that, because your time is worth something. You've got to put value in yourself, and the only way that you can put value in yourself is to put value into what you're doing. And that's going to help those people out, and it's going to help the big companies out because they've got more overhead. They've got more value into what they do. They use more expensive products. They have different sales processes. Their prices are always going to be higher than the middle guys and the low guys. But the problem is in this industry, the gap between the big companies and the one-time guys is too big. It's too big.
It is too big.
And that's where we get into what he just said. 20, 30 years ago, the plumbing industry was the same way.
It was.
Now you very, 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 very few times hear about plumbing companies being in that big of a gap. And we're talking a 70 to 80% price gap. That's huge. The small guys shouldn't be 25% behind us no more. I wouldn't guess.
No, they shouldn't. And if you want to scale, you have to charge like you are already where you want to be. So if you want 20 employees and you want your employees to have benefits and you want to have newer vans, you want wrap vans, you want a warehouse, you have to charge like you already have it. Otherwise, you'll never be able to afford it. If you are a one-man guy charging $100 an hour for labor plus 2 times markup on parts, you'll never be able to afford anything other than what you can right now.
And that was an interesting theory that you always had about parts. So the interesting theory that he always had about parts was, why are we only charging double? Well, we're charging double so we can buy one and then sell it. And then this guy comes around and says, well, what about buying that next one? What about stocking the truck? You really should probably be close to triple, because you've got to buy the first one, sell it, and then buy another one. If you're just doing double, it's almost like you don't ever get anywhere.
Yeah,
but if you do the triple markup, you can afford to buy the first one, sell it, and then buy the second one, which allows you to make profit. So it's pretty much, it works. You buy it, you sell it, which pays for that. Well, on triple, then you get the profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Buy it, pay for it, profit on it. Easy, simple process.
Yeah. But you got to be charging enough to
scale it.
Yeah, to grow. If you're not charging enough currently to have a CSR, then you'll never be able to have one. You have to make sure your prices are aligned to where you want to go. Your growth, your profit, all of that has to be built into your current price. And you shouldn't feel bad for that if that's what you're trying to do. And if all you want to be is a one-man show and you're charging what a company with 50 employees is charging, I mean, you could feel bad about that. Maybe you should, but because you're making a lot of money if you're a one-man show charging.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people will forget. People will charge less because it's more fair to the customer, and it's a little bit more affordable, and it always will present a higher conversion rate. That's what it will always present. What you've got to remember is the people that are charging that are never going to be able to scale in any decent kind of manner, or definitely not in any kind of time frame. So what you've got to decide is it a good thing to charge less? Yes, it is. But what you have to understand and ask yourself and live with yourself is do you want to stay in that position? If all you ever want to do is just, work for yourself and not scale, not have guys working for you, just pay your own bills and make your life easier and just kind of float, kind of fly right under that radar, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not gonna go against that, But if you want to scale, you have to get off of that level. And the only way that you get off that level is to fine-tune your processes, bring your prices up to go with it. And we're not, we're not telling you to just absolutely screw everyone, but you're gonna have to come off the bottom. At some point, you got to decide if you want to be something besides a bottom feeder. If you want to catch, and that's another thing too. With commercial properties, that's a whole nother issue. Everybody wants to get into commercial. Everyone wants to get the contracts, and they're great. Contracts are great. That adds value to your business right there, having contracts. But the thing that's really stinks about commercial is, when you're stepping into a residential setting, you're dealing with one, maybe two people, a wife and a husband, a renter and a tenant, which is another topic for another day. You're talking to one person that owns their home, that wants to add value to their home when they sell it, and then also make the home more comfortable for them to live in. You're going to be talking to somebody that's going to maybe want to spend the money on, a Wi-Fi based controller versus, a regular standard controller, or maybe they want, different heads. Maybe they're tired of the heads getting stuck, or maybe they're tired of, where they're positioned and they want to move around. Commercial doesn't care about that. The only thing the commercial industry is going to do is read your contracts, find the cheapest price. They're going to sign the cheapest contract. They're not going to sign the contract that's going to give them, all this extra stuff. You get all these extra inspections. You do all these other things, but they're going to be looking at the price. That's it, the price. So if your goal is to get into the commercial industry, you're almost going to have to undercut yourself. And that's kind of a floating thing in the commercial industry, because you'll come in with this contract, it'll say you're going to do all this, but you had to price it so low to win the contract. Well, now you get into it and you're like, oh shit, I can't afford to do all this. So you start cutting things off on the back end. So, and that's, if you can sustain that, maybe that works for you. But the problem is when the commercial contract holders see what you're doing, what they're paying for. Well, I thought it said you were going to do this. Well, we don't have enough money in there to do that. Now they're going to be they're going to cancel your contract when it's up, and they're going to go out and find another person, and they're not going to learn from their mistake. They're going to do the exact same thing again. They're going to look at the prices, find the cheapest one, and hope for the better.
Yeah.
Every time. And every once in a while, some of those commercial companies will learn, and they'll try it one time. Okay, well, let's go. These guys look more professional. They're about in the middle price range of all our contracts. So let's try them. And then they're like, oh, okay, this is great. They're doing everything we need. And then budget comes around, fiscal budgets come around. We can't afford this anymore. Let's go back with a cheap person. And then you're back into that process over and over again. And it's just a losing battle for everyone. So that was probably a topic for another day. But, that's something when you're going into the business world, you got to decide which way you want to go. Are you going to go residential? Or are you going to go commercial? Or are you going to do both? Whatever you're stepping into, you got to be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, I actually had that on my list. If you look at all the biggest companies, they're all, well, I won't say the biggest companies. Brightview's commercial, but a lot of the biggest companies, especially the ones that private equity is getting in, are primarily residential. They're looking for residential companies. Milestone, A1 Garage Doors, Parker and Sons, Roto-Rooter, Baker Brothers. I mean, they're all residential. Residential, well, you get paid same day. We show up, you set the price, you get paid same day. Commercial is its own beast. I mean, if you are going to get into commercial, don't let one client take up more than 10, maybe 15% of your revenue. I've seen guys take on a big project, the big client, 50% of their revenue or more, then they lose that contract. That's not good. They think they're sitting pretty when they get that $1 million contract and ties up 70% of their business, and 2 years later, it's gone.
Yep.
And you don't have that. Those aren't your customers either. All it takes is a manager change, or you're working for a landscaper,
budget change, anything like that.
Those aren't your customers. With residential, you're creating your own customer base. It takes longer. It's a harder thing to do. You have to invest in marketing.
It's a lot more organic.
Yeah, but they are your customers. It's better.
Yeah, because your commercial guys, they're not going to remember that you did a good job. They're going to remember your price. They're going to remember that, okay, they weren't the cheapest option. We don't need to worry about them. Your customer is going to say, well, they were a little more expensive than the last company I used, but I liked them a lot. I trusted them. They did a good job. I think we're going to call them back. So instead of letting your prices drive your business, use your customer relations to drive your business, because your customers are the ones that are going to call you back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think you got to figure out what your goals are. What do you want to do? Do you want to work alone? Do you want to scale? If you want to scale, you're going to have to take some risks. I think hire a CSR, get a CRM, get the CSR a phone system, some type of phone system, so they can answer the phones. Get them a process. Show them how to answer the phone. Get them a call flow. This is how you answer the phone. They don't need to know about how to fix a leak. They just need to book the call. That's their whole job. Book the call. Get around the questions. Book the call. Then focus on your sales process, your inspection process. How are you going to handle each customer? Once you have that down, your conversion rate's good. You're happy with your average ticket. I mean, refine. Nail it and scale it. That's what you're doing.
Well, I think that pretty much covers everything we wanted to talk about today.
Well, I got a couple of things here from the Facebook group I wanted to bring up real quick. There's an irrigation mastermind conference, January 7th through the 9th in Massachusetts. If y'all aren't a part of, I forget what Facebook group this was.
That should be the Real Irrigators Forum.
The Real Irrigators Forum. Kevin Battistani. How do you say his name? He's always posting. Kevin Battistani. I don't know. He works for Hunter. But Irrigation Mastermind Conference, January 7th through the 9th. I really like to see that. I want to see more people going. I think this might be the first year, but I want to see more people trying to
increase their knowledge.
Yeah, increase their knowledge. We want to uplift this industry. This is what we're all doing. We all work in this industry. So let's make the irrigation industry like the plumbing industry, like the garage door, HVAC. There's plenty of work for all of those massive companies. Here in Dallas, I could probably list off 10 companies that are doing all above $20 million a year, and they're all doing just fine. They're all growing. So, yeah, Mastermind Conference. I think anybody that can go should go. We got a couple questions off this Facebook group here. Let's see. What do you think about this? From Joel. Who here only accepts clients willing to sign a contract with prepayment for startup and winterization? Only accepting.
So we're gonna put a cap on our leads just because this. Okay, so this is something. This would have been a great topic for a whole nother day. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So when I read this, I've had 3 customers not pay me. How can I stop that from ever happening again by punishing everyone else? You're standardizing everyone else because you had a couple bad customers. This is something right here. This attitude is going to trail into your sales guys, and it's going to be a virus, and it's going to keep passing down until you stop it. You have to stop this. So when I see this, I think, and I understand this when I see this. I know where he's coming from. I guarantee you, he probably set out, a specific day for a couple customers or one specific customer. Maybe had a couple different properties, maybe a customer that he never had before. He probably either had to rent a piece of equipment or he put his own time and money into it. And, when you go, there's nothing worse than booking an appointment. If it's a 45-minute drive or something like that, booking an appointment, driving 45 minutes, doing the work, all for your customer to come to the end and say, well, I didn't like your service, I'm not paying you. There's nothing that sucks worse than that. But what you have to remember is The next person you go to could be 100% different. You know, there's not even though that there is, you know, there's good people, there's bad people, there's people in the middle. There is standards, but you're not going to see that standard, you know, appointment to appointment to appointment to appointment. You could go to your first appointment's house and tell them that a backflow is $200 and they tell you to leave. That's way too expensive. They're not paying that. And you could go to the next person's house and tell them that the backflow is $3,000 and they might tell you, oh, well, that's cheap. Let's go ahead and do that. You don't know what you're getting into when you get into these appointments. So when I read this, I think I understand it. That's an attitude that you're putting off to your customers that you don't want. You're telling the customer that you don't trust them immediately when you want prepayment. You know, I understand it. I'm not saying it's not the wrong thing to do, but this is an attitude and a persona that you're going to push off in your own business that you're not going to want, because eventually you're going to see it. You're going to see it in your guys when your guys call you and tell you, well, you know, this customer I had didn't want to spend any money, so I just left. Or I charged them the service fee and I left. Well, why didn't you, you know, try to work with them? You know, why didn't you try to figure out what their issues are? You know, that's when you start getting into objections. But because you've passed this attitude down, you're not going to have those abilities, which is why you get comments like this where this guy just said, good luck.
Yeah, so, I agree. I mean, I think if you were going to do that, you would have to do it.
And comments like, doing this literally screams our company has no money and won't be here in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's where you get these mindsets and ideologies is what ruins things. It ruins, and it, you know, when you get a company like that goes out, and you should be, and you know, all these companies, you know, y'all should be mad at this too, because he's going to be the one that goes out and sets that persona off. So, and then when they get mad at him, they're going to come to you with that same attitude, thinking you're going to do the same thing, and it's automatically going to be a bad experience until you know, rejuvenate the situation. Oh, you know, we don't have contracts. You know, we'll do pay per appointment or whatever it is the process is. You know, until you rejuvenate that customer, they're going to carry that attitude into the next company that they call, because now they have an expectation. They have an expectation that, you know, whatever company they choose is going to, you know, treat them that way. And that's not something you want these companies or these people putting out there, because these people, when they get tired of that company, they're going to call the next company. And you're not going to know when you're going to be the next company. And you're not going to want to deal with a customer that's been treated that way. It's not going to be a good phone call. It's not going to be a good relationship when you get there. You know, you're always going to be fighting that expectation. You can do everything in the world for that customer, treat them the right way, give them good prices, work with them, give them good scheduling, you know, always be on priority with them. They'll always have that in the back of their mind. You know, that's where the ideology comes from. If one good thing, one person will pass one good thing to one person. If one bad thing is said, that bad will go to 10 people. Bad energy spreads way faster than good energy. Yeah. Always. And that's that right there. Because that person's going to be telling, well, I use this company and they treated me like this. And then for all that you know, that person just scared that person about calling other companies, and now they don't know what to do. So this is something that needs to be stopped.
Yeah, we need to stop being looked at as lawn guys. We're not lawn guys that change head for $10. We're professionals. We're licensed professionals in most states. We need to be looked at more like plumbers. I don't think plumbers would do that. If you call the biggest plumbing companies in your city, I mean, call them. They'll show up right now. They're not going to give you any BS about, oh, we need a card on file before we come out. We need this and that. They're just going to show up. And the other thing with this is, like, why are they not paying? You know, if you want to get prepayment, you don't need it on the phone. Show up, do the winterization. You should be collecting payment as soon as you're done with it. And if you want to add the spring startup cost into the winterization, do that. So if you charge $180 to do the winterization, let's say, if you want to charge, let's say you charge $180 to do the startup too, for an example. So $360 total. Instead of splitting that in half, charge $360 at the time of the winterization and charge nothing on the spring startup. And just do it that way. And then just say, yeah, we'll come out and do the winterization. Show up, charge $360. as soon as you're done.
Yeah, don't make the customer feel like they have to pay before you get there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants. There's very few people in the world that want to buy a product before seeing it, or at least even in this day's world of online shopping, most people will go watch a YouTube video or look at product reviews. The customer wants to know what they're buying into. They don't want to just buy something and then you show up and they don't like your product. Then they're just going to want their money back, and you're not going to give it. So this is what's going to happen. He's going to get a prepayment from somebody. He's going to go out. The customer's not going to like him. He's going to refuse to give them their money back, and that's going to start a whole nother trail of events where now we're talking bad Google reviews, and that's
I'll be back on this Facebook group talking about I got this customer who wants a refund from a prepayment, even though I put in there no refund. Don't even tell them it's a prepayment. Don't tell them there is no contract. Don't tell them it's a prepayment. Just say it's this much money for the winterization, and that includes your spring startup.
Yeah, spring startup's free.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. And you collect at the time of the winterization. And then you don't have this problem.
You gotta know when to use the word free. The word free is a lot of times the most heard word you're going to get from your customers. When you say that word free, they're going to hear it immediately. So instead of saying, well, it's $360 you're paying for you don't want to tell them you're paying for the spring startup right now. You want to tell them, well, it's $360 to do the winterization, and then spring startup's free with it.
Yep.
And a lot of people will put those two things together, and that's fine. But it's the way you're presenting it. Your presentation on this stuff is everything.
Oh yeah, and people do the same thing with Christmas lights. You're not paying. We don't do Christmas lights, but I know you're not going to go out and charge a customer to put up the Christmas lights and then come and charge them to take it down. You're charging the whole thing on the put up. And then when you come take them down, all you're doing is take them down. It's already paid for. You're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these, and collect the money right then. You don't have to worry about this. And if you do the winterization and they say we're not paying, turn it back on, leave. See ya. I mean,
yeah. No reason to make a fuss about it. What
Yeah.
you got there?
We talked about getting a phone system. On September 30th, for all those people that didn't have a phone system, Verizon Wireless had an outage, and a bunch of people were talking about. This guy said, what a massive pain trying to run a business with a cell phone. Can't get a hold of people. People can't get a hold of me. Because he had Verizon. We never had that issue. I didn't even know it was a thing until like a day later. That's why you need a phone system, a VoIP system, voice over internet protocol. You need to get a phone system. Just wanted to make that point.
Okay.
Let's see. I got two more things here. All right, guys, I'm pulling the trigger on buying a air compressor to
25 CFM.
Yeah, which I don't think is big enough, but whatever. To do blowouts.
You need to develop a system to retain customers for startup and winterizations for next year. How do y'all go about that? There's a lot of easy answers for that.
CRM, biggest one. I mean,
that's the second biggest one. The biggest one, this is another thing. This is a good one. This is another way to build value into your business. Why are we doing one-time charges for stuff like this? Why are you going out and saying, hey, it's X amount of dollars for a winterization, do it. Winterization, if you've got a customer that's asking for a winterization, we get a winter once a year. So why are we not, this is something that needs to be offered on a membership based. A membership base is going to add value to your business. If you're charging X amount of dollars for this, if you're talking winter blowouts, you're probably talking anywhere from $300 to $700 on a blowout, probably, to get an air compressor out there, hook it up, blow it out.
I don't even think these guys charge that much.
Yeah, well, that's just a guess. That's some of the prices I've seen on. We're down here in Texas. We don't have to worry about stuff like this. But I've seen a couple of these guys on these forums, saying they're charging about that range, and that range might not be wrong, but it doesn't change from the point. Why are we going out and charging $300 one time? Let's hope they call back next year. Why are we not saying, hey, it's $350 or $300 for the winterization one time, or you can pay X amount of dollars monthly, and you can get winterizations and spring startups every year. You don't have to pay for them. You get paid X amount of dollars, and then, maybe even offer them a discount on your regular services. If you want to get this membership, well, we'll give you a 10% discount on anything else you get from us. That, you lose a little bit of money up front, but you get that membership, and the membership is going to do two things. It's going to add value to your business because you're going to have recurring revenue. You just bought that customer as well. That customer, you have just bought them. They're not going anywhere else because they're paying you monthly.
Yep.
That is a very good trick to buy a customer.
And that goes back into building your business to sell it. You want to add value. Recurring
revenue will add value to your business.
Yeah. Last thing here, who knows about collections? I don't have a lot, but I'm tired of people not paying me. Seems like every year I have people that are impossible to collect on.
Let's look at some of those comments right here.
There's some on the back too.
Yeah.
More people not collecting on site.
Yeah, this guy right here. That's why it's so crucial to collect on site. That's what I stressed in my guys. Absolutely. You need to be collecting on site. You should never fall for the, well, give me something I can pay online, or can I pay you this day? Okay, well, how about this? If you can pay this day, let's say, for example, we had a customer not that long ago that needed a backflow. I think the quote was somewhere in the middle, maybe $1,600-$1,700. I can't remember exactly what it was, but let's use that for an example. It was something like that, and the customer was like, well, I've only got half of that. Can I just pay half of it now, and then y'all do it, and I'll pay the next half Friday? Well, no, we can't do that because we can't do half payments on that, but let's go ahead and schedule that appointment for you on that day, and then you can just pay in full on that day. Now, let's say, and this is where you've got to get your process down. So let's say that day you've got 4 customers already scheduled. Well, you get the customer to sign on this, figure out what you need to be getting on deposits when you're scheduling work out. That's how you're going to stop things like that from happening, is if you tell them, okay, well, how about this? Let's take a 10, 20, 30% deposit today. We'll come out and do the work on the day that you'll have the money to pay for the whole thing. And you take those other 4 customers and put them on another day. Because at the end of the day, yes, you scheduled those people. Do the very best you can not to lose those leads and customers because you paid for them. But you've got a customer that's paying a deposit you're already guaranteed to make X amount of dollars off that customer. That customer needs to have priority immediately because they're already telling you, it's not I'm willing to spend, I'm going to spend. That money you need to lock that in. So if you get a deposit from them, that'll keep them, and you tell them that they won't get their deposit back if they cancel it and don't schedule another one. That's how you stop those customers from running off, calling other companies. Even if they get a cheaper quote, they're already going to say, well, I've already paid a deposit, and if I cancel it, I won't get it back. Now you've got them. You've got them in a nice way. You didn't piss them off. They might tell you, hey, I got a better price, and that's where you can tell your guys, or if you're the business owner, you can tell them, how much are you willing to price match? If you're not willing to price match, you could do things like, okay, well, I can give you a little bit of discount on it. Just keep the customer happy. If you lose a couple $100, that's fine. You then built a good relationship with that customer. You didn't lose the lead. You got the work. They were happy with the work. And, those processes are all things that you can fine tune as you're going forward. And then you don't have to worry about stuff like these collections. We only get collections every time we have a customer that says, I can pay online. I don't want to give you a card, or, any kind of excuse like that. Every time we have to do this, those people go to collections. We've had customers skip out on $40.
Oh yeah, skip it on the service call.
Yeah, how do you send $30 to collections? And then at the same token, we're sitting here looking at our service technicians, and we're like, why are we not collecting $30-$40 on site? Why are we letting this walk?
Mm-hmm. No. Collect on site. No reason to send the invoice. If they're not there, call them. Get the card over the phone. They want their stuff fixed today. We want our money today. It's just the way it works.
And these are attitudes that, once again, I don't understand, but I agree with. Here's another comment. What's stopping the contractor from pulling the guts out of the heads or removing the clock installed? Here in Texas, you can't do that. Once you put that on their property, that's theirs. If you take it, that's stealing. You can't do that. Once you've already installed it, it's there. Now you can, if you want to go this route and talk to the customer and they're okay with it, if you feel like you can get away with it, yes, I mean you can. But technically, you can't do that once it's there. Now you can pursue charges of theft of service on them. If they're not willing to pay you, or if you want to toss that money into collections and hurt their credit, there's a couple different. I think you've got some good companies that you work with for collections. On our high ticket items that, because you're still always going to have things where the customer pays with a credit card and then bounces the payment out. You're still going to have that. And that's where you're going to come into a system where you have, double signatures and their credit card signature. Toss that off to the credit card company. They signed it.
Yeah.
We have an authorization signature that says, "Hey, I'm okay with I'm okay with the price, and I want it done today." We have an acknowledgement that says the work was performed to my standard. I'm going to pay, and then you have a signature on the credit card screen that's signing, acknowledging that I'm paying this invoice.
Yeah.
You've got 3 signatures. If the customer decides to bounce the payment back, okay, credit card company calls us and says, "Hey, she said she didn't pay this." Okay, well, I've got 3 signatures that say that she did. Toss them over to the credit card company. She can't stop the payment.
That's happened to me several times. I always get an email notification saying, "Oh, this customer disputed the charge." I send the estimate. I send all those signatures over. It always gets sent back. We'll always get the money.
Yep.
You can't fight it.
Yeah. These issues that these guys are having are coming from their process. Their process not being fine-tuned. When your process is not being fine-tuned, you're going to fall susceptible to issues like this.
Yeah.
Always.
Scaling comes from the process. You only scale through your processes.
Yep. Well, I think that was pretty good for today.
Yeah, it's a good first episode. Guys out there, if you want a book to read Built to Sell by John Warlow. And check back in. We're going to be doing these episodes more often. IrrigationInsightsPodcast.com.
Check us out on YouTube too.
Yeah, YouTube, Apple Podcast.
We're going to start doing live streams. If we can get enough audience, we'll do Q&As. We're going to bring in some special guests, a couple other guys we know from around the area that are doing the same thing. We'll kind of get some insight on, what their struggles are, because our struggles may not be the same as other people's struggles. We're giving you an insight of how we started. We're pretty much going to be giving you an insight of how we started, what we found that works and doesn't work, how we got where we are, and then we can cross that. We can pull, we'll start putting it up on the screen where you can see some of this stuff. We'll kind of showcase some of the issues that these other guys are having and kind of give you our opinion based on how they could have stopped that from happening in the first place.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, I appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you next week.